Hi folks, hope you're doing well this holiday season. Got a few updates for you that I think are important enough to make a separate video. Now on the videos you watched, you remember about setting one. Setting one is when you're over the ball right before you're about to initiate the swing. If you drop the club and stood up, you want to feel more or less the same. So you have a threshold level of wholeness before you pull the trigger. Well, we're going to make this setting one a little bit more powerful. Instead of when you're over the ball, and if you drop the club, you would feel more or less the same, I want you to feel that when you're over the ball, if you drop the club, your shoulders would feel exactly the same. Exactly the same. Because when your shoulders don't feel exactly the same, if you drop the club, that means you are over anticipating an action that has not yet occurred. So what you can do is you can practice this first, because when you do this for the first time, when you drop the club and stand up, your shoulders are not going to feel exactly the same. So you're over the ball right before you initiate the swing. You drop the club, stand up, ask yourself if your shoulders feel exactly the same. They probably won't, so you keep doing this 2, 3, 4, 5 times until you have a baseline that when you feel that you dropped the club and you stood up, like you were standing in your kitchen or your living room, your shoulders would feel exactly the same as when you had the club in your hand and you wanted to initiate right before you initiate the swing. So we're just dropping down to a deeper level of wholeness. And we're measuring that. And we measure that by, yes, the shoulders will feel exactly the same. Yes, I feel like I'm in my living room. Okay, you got it? Okay, here's another update. This is an interesting one. This is an interesting update. Let's say you're having a catch with someone and they're about 10 feet away and you're throwing the ball back and forth to them. And then they move another 10 feet back. So now they're 20 feet away. Now, let's say they're walking back, and then they stop. Now, when they stop and you look to see where they are, immediately you input all the processes necessary to generate 10 more feet of arm speed, so the ball is going 20 feet instead of 10 feet. You do this instantaneously. You do this instantaneously. Now, you do not have to revisit and input another set of processes once you calculate that that person is 20 feet away rather than 10 feet away. It's one and done. But what happens when you play golf? What happens when you play golf? Is when you play golf, you're behind that ball, you calculate, you create your algorithm, which obviously includes the distance and the shape, if you're shaping it. So you have programmed the computer for that shot. The problem occurs is when you keep reprogramming the computer as you're walking in. It's like you're inputting another set of processes, another set of processes. And of course, you're doing this very quietly, but it's registering in the brain physiology, trust me. So by the time you swing, maybe you have inputted 8, 10, 12 sets of processes, okay? And then in the transition, the key moment in the swing, the cerebellum needs to do two things. One, it needs to experience two things. One, it needs a moment of silence because it's calculating the redirection of the club going forward, okay? It's calculating that. But if you have inputted 8, 10, 12 sets of processes, it doesn't know which number to look at. It doesn't know which number process to look at. Do I look at number 3? Do I look at number 8? Do I look at number 12? And that interrupts the flow of intelligence between the mind and the body. This year at the US Open on the 16th hole, when Bryson and Rory were tied, 16th was a par 3 at Pinehurst, he looked up at the target 7 times. Boom, boom. Every time he looked up, he inputted another set of processes. Let's go to the 18th hole. All he has to do is par the hole, and he's going to be in a playoff, or if he birdies it, he wins. It's a difficult, remember, it's a difficult driving hole. And he looked up at the fairway 9 times. YouTube it, Google it. 9 times he looked up. Boom, boom, boom. Every time he looked up, he inputted another set of processes. So in the middle of the swing, in the transition, the cerebellum didn't know which set of processes to acknowledge. And of course, he pulled it dead left. So the fluid cue is very simple. You're behind the ball. You calculate you create the algorithm, calculate the distance. Of course, it's different with a wedge than it is with a 3-wood. And then you close the book on the swing. You close the book on inputting any sets of processes. Because did you recalculate another set of processes when you moved 10 feet, another 10 feet away and you were 20 feet rather than 10 feet? No, it was instantaneous. So there's a distinct feeling about closing the book. I'm not going to input any processes, okay? And then going through your routine and hitting the shot. Now, you can look at the book. Don't try to control the mind. You can look at the book once you've inputted all the sets of processes, but you don't start inputting more sets of processes. You're just confusing the cerebellum which set of processes to look at in that transition. Okay, you got it? I'd love some feedback. Happy holidays. Hope you're all doing well.